Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we've got a trade and signing update video. In today's video, we're looking at a small trade that happened late last night between the Nashville Predators and the New Jersey Devils. And we're also looking at two very interesting signings, one that's officially confirmed, one that's about to be confirmed with the Blackhawks and the Oilers. We'll get to all of these updates from over the past day coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the End-to-End Hockey channel. Now before we get started, don't forget to like this video and subscribe below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to do this without all of you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to leave a comment. We're on the road to 500 subscribers, so it's really appreciated. And don't forget to stay tuned for my June 27th, June 28th, and July 1st live stream talking about the draft, free agency, and a lot of other things. Definitely go to stay tuned for that. But in today's video, we've got a very interesting video here to talk about. It's another interesting signing and trade update video. Now this isn't trade rumors or anything, but these trades and signings were significant enough and putting them into their separate videos. So we're going to start off with the two signings I want to talk about here today. The first one is in the Chicago Blackhawks organization. And this is one I think a lot of people thought was possibly going to come. When it didn't happen right after the trade deadline, I thought maybe there was a potentiality Donato could hit free agency. But Ryan Donato, who had a career year this past season, he's a center/winger. He can play on the wing. He can play as a center. He's a very versatile guy. Played a lot with Connor Bedard this past year. He's 29 years old, gets a 4-year contract extension with AAV of $4 million. So that's about a $2 million pay bump from this bast year. Donato's been bouncing around over the past couple of years. He was in Boston originally. He went to Minnesota. He went to San Jose. He went to a short stint to Seattle. And then he went to Chicago. And Chicago this year had a great season. A career high 31 goals, a career high 31 assists, a career high 62 points in 80 games. Donato was an amazing find for the Chicago Blackhawks. So he's not overly old, but he's not on the younger side of things either. So at 29 years old, 4 years takes him until he's 33. If the production starts to drop in the last year or two of that deal, the Hawks could retain money, maybe trade him away. So I don't think this is a bad contract here for the Blackhawks. Like I said, Donato, before this past year, his career high was 31 points back with the Seattle Kraken a couple of years back. So since then, he'd been a decent 25 to 30 point player, but this year he put up 60. So this might be a one-off. If he goes back to being like a 30-40 point forward, you could probably see that. So $4 million for like a 30-40 point forward is might be a little bit too much in my opinion. But if he can continue to be like a 50 to 60 point forward, that sort of justifies his contract a little bit. So very interesting note there. But Donato, who was a really good find for the Hawks and one of their point leaders, is staying around on a 4-year deal. When you go over to another guy, now this contract has not been finalized yet because the Oilers are still working around with some other things, so it might not be finalized for a few days yet. But apparently the Edmonton Oilers are in the process of signing Trent Frederic to an 8-year contract extension in the range of $3.5 to $4 million, somewhere in between there. So that's a very interesting deal. We've heard about it over the past week and a half, 2 weeks, that the Oilers were looking to extend Trent Frederic after the Stanley Cup final ends. So it's very interesting to note that they sign him before they sign maybe a couple of those other guys like Connor Brown or something like that, or move off some guys, because currently after this deal happens, when you give Frederic $3.5 to $4 million on his AAV, you're left with about $8 million to sign Bouchard, who's going to want 10 plus, and a whole bunch of other guys. So they need to figure up cap space big time. Kane's the name, Arvidsson's the name, Henrique's the name. There's probably a couple of other guys too who they could try and trade to free up cap space. But this is an interesting deal. Like at 8 years, it'll take him until he's 35. That might be a little bit too long. Like I thought he was going to get like a 5 to 6 year deal, sort of like a Nick Paul type player. I also think $3.5 and $4 million is just a tad bit overpriced. Like Frederic, he's a hard-hitting forward. He's a guy who can lay the body down. He's a very physical presence. This past year had a pretty sour season at the NHL level, only having 8 goals and 15 points in 58 games, but did have 18 goals and 40 points last year and 17 goals the year prior. So if he can get back up to being like a 15 to 20 goal, 40 to 45 point forward, that sort of justifies this sort of a contract. But if he goes back and continues to be like a 20 to 25 point forward, putting up like 5 to 15 goals, that really doesn't justify the contract. So I think if Frederic can get back to those last few years in Boston and play like he did then, I could definitely see this be a really good steal of a deal for the Oilers. But just given how poorly he played this year due to the injuries, how much he got ice time in Edmonton, like they're going to be burying him on the fourth line and paying him close to $4 million. I think that might be a mistake for the Edmonton Oilers. So very interesting note there. But it sounds like the Oilers are nearing a contract extension with Trent Frederic. And lastly, going over to a very intriguing deal between the New Jersey Devils and the Nashville Predators. The trade is as follows. The Nashville Predators have acquired Erik Haula from the New Jersey Devils for Jeremy Hansel and a 2025 fourth round pick. So this is a very interesting pickup there for both these teams. Look at the Devils side first. So Haula was one of the guys I was warning about as a potential cap dump. We looked at the Devils in our offseason previous year's video, and I said there's a potentiality of Haula being moved. I thought Palat, who's got a couple of years left at $6 million, and Hamilton, who's still at $9 million, but is on a little bit more of a crowd blue line, are probably a little bit more likely than Haula. But given the fact that Haula was entering the final year of his deal, I thought there was a potentiality that the Devils could move on from him to try and free up some cap space to go after some other interesting pieces. They get Jeremy Hansel. Hansel's a 22-year-old left shot defenseman in the second year of his 3-year ELC. He's making $851,000. He was a 6th round pick a couple of years back of the Colorado Avalanche. This past year he played in 4 AHL games, putting up no points, was mostly an ECHL level player, so maybe in a couple of years time Hansel can eventually work out to be like a solid 6th, 7th defenseman for the New Jersey Devils, but that's not going to be anytime soon, so very interesting note there. It's a low-end prospect that the Devils are getting here. They also get the 99th overall pick in this upcoming draft, so it's in the next week. They could try and flip that pick as part of a trade package to get them some sort of improvement. They could try and keep that pick and select someone with the 99th overall pick, so it'll be very interesting to note there. But the Devils get a low-end defensive prospect and the 99th overall pick in this year's draft. For Predators, it's a little bit more confusing than the Devils. Like for the Devils, they need to trade out some cap. Haula made sense in the final year of his deal. They get a couple of decent things back in return. For Predators, they're a team who I don't really think needs to be adding at this point. They were the 3rd lowest team in the NHL this past year. They tried to go through the adding stuff last year. It didn't work for them. So I think they should be focusing on trying to move off pieces. Now, Haula is a decent guy, 34 years old, entering the final year of his deal. He's a left wing slash center. He's probably going to be a winger. He can also be a depth center if need be. He's got $3.15 million in cap space. He had 11 goals and 21 points in 69 games this year, which wasn't overly bad, but was no close to his past few seasons where he had the 35 to 40 points over the past few seasons. So it was definitely a down year production wise from Haula. Haula did have a stint with Nashville back in the 2020-2021 season where he had 9 goals and 21 points in 51 games. So maybe he can be a solid pickup there for the Nashville Predators. I think he'll probably be like a 3rd line player there in Nashville. And one thing I do think is a possibility is if the Preds are going to be out of it again next year, I think Haula could be a very likely trade deadline acquisition for a couple teams who are in the playoff hunt. So I could definitely see Haula be a guy who winds up getting dealt in season at the trade deadline if Nashville isn't doing well, which I'm expecting they won't be. So very interesting note there. At this point in time, I do think that New Jersey wins this deal because even though they don't get too much in return, they do get some cap space, which could really help them this offseason. But if Haula winds up doing really well, maybe signs an extension, or if they trade him at the trade deadline and get a really solid return, I could see the Predators wind up winning this deal. So interesting trade there. But the Preds get Erik Haula from the Devils in exchange for Hansel and a 2025 4th round pick. So very interesting note there. But that's the updates when it comes to the 2 signings and the trade. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. What was your opinion on these 3 moves? Do you think the Frederic deal makes sense? Do you think that the Donato deal makes sense? And do you like this trade for the Devils, for the Predators, or for both teams? Definitely your thoughts on all of that down in the comment section below. That's all I'm going to talk for today. Remember to like this video and for those who are subscribe below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to do it without all of you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to leave a comment. We're on the road to 500 subscribers. Don't forget to stay tuned for my June 27th, June 28th, and July 1st live streams. I also do a blog talking about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that, so check that out. The links down in the description below. Can't see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.